Is humanity alone in the universe? This is one of the most intriguing questions in human history. While we ponder the meaning of our existence on Earth, we also wonder if we are alone in this vast universe. How would you feel if one day you learned that we share the universe with other beings? What would you do if you had an unexpected encounter with an extraterrestrial being on what you thought was a perfectly ordinary day? Today, I will share with you a very interesting and frightening event that took place in 1961. This event is a true story experienced by Barney and Betty Hill, a couple living in the state of New Hampshire, USA. Although the existence of extraterrestrial life and UFOs has not been definitively proven to date, the abduction case of Barney and Betty Hill is the incident where the most convincing findings on this subject have been identified. Let's examine this event together. Welcome to my channel called The Discovery of Mystery, where we will unveil the curtains of secrets. On September 19, 1961, Barney and Betty Hill were driving back to their home in New Hampshire in their own car. Barney was a mail carrier, and Betty was an officer at a social services agency. They were both healthy individuals in their 40s. Around 10:30 p.m., Betty noticed some objects in the sky that were very small, but shone brightly like stars. These objects were moving back and forth. Barney also noticed these objects. After a while, Barney stopped the car several times to get a better look at the objects. During this time, Betty told her husband Barney that these luminous objects could be some kind of aircraft, and that similar objects had been seen in the area before. Barney did not believe in UFOs, but these objects puzzled him as well. Barney thought that these types of objects might not be UFOs, but rather part of a secret government project. The couple resumed their journey along the mountain road. Barney soon noticed that these objects were following them. Suddenly, one of the craft swiftly passed by their car, causing Barney to panic and stop the car in the middle of the road. The object that passed by was indeed a disc-shaped spacecraft with windows. This craft stopped only 150 meters away from them, observing them silently. Barney got out of the car and started looking at the craft that was observing them. Upon closer inspection, about 10-11 beings wearing black uniform-like outfits could be clearly seen inside the craft. Barney's attention was particularly drawn to one being at the front, whom he thought might be the leader. According to Barney, this being telepathically communicated to him to keep looking and to stay where he was. Then the spacecraft began to slowly descend. As it approached the ground, fins with red lights on either side of the craft became visible. As the spacecraft got closer, Barney realized with horror that the being he had seen was not human. He started screaming and ran back to his car. When Barney got into the car, there was a loud noise, and everything started to shake. The last thing they remembered from that moment was this shaking. After that, everything became blurry. Later, they were startled awake by another loud noise. However, they woke up 55 kilometers away from where they had been during the initial shaking. Moreover, they couldn't remember exactly how they got there or what had happened. They eventually returned home, but the trip had taken much longer than it should have. The clock at home showed around 5 a.m. Both felt extremely exhausted. Barney and Betty fell into a restless sleep. When they woke up, Barney felt a severe pain in his neck. He also noticed the boots they had worn the previous day. The boots were severely scuffed and worn. Shortly thereafter, Betty began to recall images of a craft covered with bright spotlights at the back. Everything was very strange. After discussing the inexplicable events for a while, Barney and Betty decided to share their experience with the authorities. Subsequently, they prepared a file to send to a friend in the United States military. However, they hesitated to share all the details they could remember. 2 weeks later, Betty began to have dreams that she was undergoing medical examinations. These strange dreams continued for days, even weeks. A few weeks later, after investigations and interviews conducted by a civilian researcher, it was discovered that Barney and Betty arrived home from Canada at least 2 hours later than usual. The couple couldn't remember what they had done during the 2 hours they spent before arriving home. Some authorities suggested that Barney and Betty undergo hypnosis. Hypnosis sessions were thought to potentially provide a solution to this strange situation. Meanwhile, Barney started experiencing some health issues. He began to suffer from fatigue, exhaustion, and high blood pressure. Barney attributed these ailments to stress. Additionally, Barney started developing warts near his groin area. The events of that night were causing significant stress for the couple. Unable to cope with the stress any longer, Barney and Betty sought the help of Benjamin Simon, a leading psychiatrist in the area, to participate in hypnosis sessions. In 1963, Barney and Betty underwent numerous hypnosis sessions separately. During these sessions, they both remembered being taken aboard a spacecraft that night. The Hill couple began to recall that the beings who abducted them had large eyes, thin jaws, and a line resembling a mouth above their jaws. They described these beings as short in stature, with eyes resembling those of a cat. However, among them was a taller being who seemed to command the others. Betty remembered that this tall being was very different from the others, but she couldn't describe it clearly. Barney also began to recall some details too. According to Barney, these beings placed a device around his groin area. Experts discovered a biological substance described as abnormal on the dress Betty wore that night. Betty recounted undergoing some experiments where she was told it was a pregnancy test, and big needles were inserted into her abdomen. She mentioned that these experiments were quite painful. Years later, a pregnancy test involving inserting a needle into the abdomen was discovered on Earth. There was no technology or source available at that time from which Betty could have obtained such advanced information other than extraterrestrial beings. As time passed, the Hill couple began to remember more details. Among them, two important details were noteworthy. The first is the star map drawn by Betty after hypnosis. Betty said that this map was shown to her by the leader of the beings. Subsequently, it was revealed that this drawing depicted the Zeta Reticuli star system, located 30 light-years away from Earth. An astonishing detail that should not be overlooked here is that this star system was not known on Earth until 1969. In other words, the Zeta Reticuli star system began to be known by humans 8 years after this incident, with the publication of a catalog. The second important detail is Betty Hill undergoing a polygraph test on a national TV program. Betty was asked whether she received information about the star map from an extraterrestrial being, and whether what she recounted was true. The responses given by Betty were evaluated by the polygraph and showed very high accuracy. Particularly, the fact that Betty's accounts passed the polygraph test is indeed an extraordinary event. This incident experienced by Betty and Barney Hill became recorded as an alien abduction event that occurred in 1961. What made this event significant was that Barney and Betty Hill were the first couple to be allegedly abducted by aliens. Whether these individuals were truly abducted by aliens, or if the event was a result of mental and psychological factors, may never be fully known. However, the accounts provided by the Hill couple added a new dimension to the discussions surrounding UFOs and extraterrestrial life. This mysterious event, as a reflection of humanity's curiosity and quest for the unknown, has been discussed for many years and continues to be talked about even today. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and stay tuned. You can support my channel by liking the videos and leaving comments. Until we meet again.